Serena Williams is capturing headlines worldwide, as always in the tennis industry, but now it's because this has been dubbed her tournament already, performing in the US Open. She just won her match yesterday, I believe, and as we air this clip, I guarantee we put the ultimate jinx on her and she'll probably lose tomorrow. Yeah. So Dave, Koller and Victor Chi join me here on the rundown with the post-game TYTSports. So we're here to talk about Serena Williams. And Dave, I know you're a huge tennis fan, and when it comes to Serena Williams, there's been numerous questions around. There's already talks about her potentially facing an opponent of a different sex, to basically say that, because McEnroe came out and stated, I don't know if he was joking or not, but it was a match that Donald Trump, of all people, wanted to happen between McEnroe and Serena Williams, in which he claimed he could still take her. But we'll get to that point a little bit later. First of all, the main thing I want to talk about is how big of an accomplishment will it be if she wins the US Open to add to this, to break records basically and add to her accolades already this year?
Well, to begin with, I call this the Chris Fowler school of tennis. If you watch a match that Chris Fowler is calling on ESPN, all he talks about is how many majors the person won. He doesn't know anything else about tennis, it appears. That's all he ever talks about. And I like Chris Fowler, but that's all he does. So in Chris Fowler terms, she has 21 majors. Yeah. So Steffi Graf has 22. I almost see her winning a 22nd major and tying Steffi Graf as equally important, somehow in my mind, maybe even more important than just winning all 4 majors in one calendar year. Serena has won all 4 majors in a row, twice in her career. They just went over in 2 calendar years. But tennis season is not like football, basketball, baseball season where the team changes for the next year and it's a new season. Yeah. Tennis never stops. It's a continuous cycle. So I'm looking at how many majors she wins. And so is it big? Yeah, it's a big deal if she wins her 22nd major. It is a big deal to cement her reputation for eternity if she wins all 4 in one year as well.
Yeah. So this is a question I want to skip onto first, then we'll come back to this. Victor, I want to get your perspective on this. So Steffi Graf, as we know, is considered legendary in the sport. But from my knowledge, it was never really a talking point about Steffi Graf being so good that she would have to face an opponent of a different sex and play a man, basically, to continue to challenge herself. Why is it so, do you think, that Serena Williams, this question has been posed outside of just a silly question which was put on Jimmy Kimmel to McEnroe, but this is actually something that people think should happen if she continues to win?
I think part of it is right now she's dominating to such an extent that it puts that thought in people's heads. Like the gap between her and the second-ranked player and the gap between the second-ranked player and the last-ranked player are so significant that people just boggle. It's like, how is this possible that there's this much of a difference? Yeah. And going back to Graf, it's interesting that we're talking about her both in the total number of Grand Slams and this Grand Slam all 4 in 1 year, which he has. And part of it comes back to, do you have a rival? And Graf, when she came in the late 80s, Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova, great champions, but at the tail end of their career, not really a worthy opponent at that championship level. And then the person who could have been that for Graf was Monica Seles, who was never the same after getting stabbed. Yeah. And so now you look at Serena, how she's had this great second act of her career after she turned 30, which is kind of unprecedented. And part of it is because she got a new coach and got back into her shape and all the stuff that she's done herself. Part of it, too, is the absence of somebody standing in her way.
Yeah, and so I want to share my perspective on this because I have done some research and I've seen that many people compared her to the significance of Ronda Rousey in her UFC career at the moment, and I think that is just absolutely ridiculous to state, for one, because no female athlete that I've seen, no athlete in general, is as dominant, I think, as Ronda Rousey is in her sport. She's beating people within the first minute consistently, to the point that, yes, that question will come up, and I still think that question is ridiculous in a whole, but I would hear it out more so with Ronda Rousey's case than I would with Serena Williams, because the competition is still there. It might not be, she's being dominant right now and she's destroying, but how many times in Serena Williams' career have we seen her lose to an undercard? How many times have we seen her struggle throughout a tournament? Numerous times. So the challenge is there. This is just a question that people want to pose because they want to get clicks. They want to say, they take this stupid question, throw it at McEnroe, and they're like, all right, let's make a story out of this. We'll talk about Serena Williams playing maybe Roger Federer or something like that, which is just crazy for me because she's still got that competition factor. If she wins this, the next challenge for her is to go and do it again, because that's the beauty of tennis, is that when you get someone like Roger Federer, after his 5th year of sheer dominance, do you think people turned around and went, well, I think Roger Federer should play two people? Because he's obviously that good at winning one. It's just a stupid argument. Tennis is there to consistently win. So if she consistently wins, then yeah, she's going to prove herself as the best. You don't need to add in another factor to try and challenge her more. She's already challenged.
Yeah, well, when you talk about exhibitions between a female tennis player and a male tennis player, it is on the silly side. But for all of us and everyone I know who doesn't play professional tennis, there is a legitimate curiosity. How good is the best woman? Is she in the top 200 of tennis? And I actually don't know. You could listen to experts, but the only way to really find out is to have a Donald Trump fund such an exhibition and see what happens. Not with Roger Federer or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if you put Serena up against the number 185, then that's embarrassing. So it's never going to happen. But there's a legitimate curiosity on the part of an average fan.
Oh yeah, and I agree that there's a curiosity factor. Everyone's curious, but I was when I'm talking about the way that Rousey, that the discussion with Rousey is not a curiosity factor. It's a factor as if to say, all right, she's got no one else to beat this. She's beaten people with such dominance that we have to try and do this to imply some sort of competitiveness. That's what I think is ridiculous.
Right,
but Serena right now, there's no need for it.
You look at the French Open, she had to rally in some of those matches just to escape to move to the next round. Like, Ronda Rousey doesn't need to rally.
Yeah, we haven't seen her basically being in a chaotic situation in amongst the octagon. She just wins it comfortably, and now we're talking about moving between classes to get her to fight Cyborg, which is something that people want to see because she's considered the rival. I still think she'll destroy her as well. And then that conversation can continue as my pocket square falls out because I'm making such a strong point here. But let's get back to the point about Serena Williams, and you just mentioned it there, Rick, is that there is a competition factor. So, Dave, who do you think in this US Open can rival Serena Williams in this example?
Well, as we speak, it's only been 2 days of the tournament. Sharapova, first of all, has no chance against Serena, and she didn't even play in the tournament. She was injured. Number 7 is out. Number 8, 10, 6, 14, 21, and 28 have all been eliminated. So there's no competition left. Simona Halep is number 2. Whoever, they're all interchangeable. As Vic said, the gap between number 1 and the rest is so huge, they're all interchangeable. So Serena's biggest opponent, as always for the past many years, is herself, and we've seen her self-destruct. So that's and it's fun to watch. Will she self-destruct or will she not, and will she win the tournament? So there is a lot of intrigue to watch, but there's no opponent on the other side of the net that's going to beat her.
So do you think if she does win it this year and she manages to obtain all 4 Grand Slams basically in the same calendar year, do you think that puts her ahead of Steffi Graf?
Look, we talked about who the opponents were. Graf, she played Chris Evert and Navratilova at the tail end of the careers, but Navratilova beat Graf a couple times, so it wasn't that much of a tail end.
Yeah.
In the first half of Serena's life, she had to face Venus a whole bunch of times, which is a great rival. And Davenport and Hingis were also good. So now Serena doesn't have any real rivals. But she did in the first half of her career. Very serious. We could have been talking about Venus instead of Serena right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and Serena changed the game more than Steffi Graf with her power. And we're not comparing to like Margaret Court Smith or whatever her name is from the 1960s where you can't compare. Steffi Graf, these are roughly the same era. It is a gap. The 80s, they already had the fancy rackets in the 80s. It's a fair comparison between Steffi Graf and Serena Williams. And I think Serena Williams is a greater tennis player, more accomplishments than Steffi Graf is. Probably already, especially if she equals her in majors.
So I just don't want to go talking about the US Open without obviously mentioning, and tennis in general, without talking about obviously my native, probably the most successful Scot, or the only successful Scot in terms of athletics at the moment, is Andy Murray. So is there any predictions you guys have or thoughts ahead of the men's version of the US Open?
Andy Murray's most intriguing match is today, first round against Nick Kyrgios.
So it depends.
After that, we'll see him in a couple of weeks.
Let's hope that this clip goes up beforehand, because I could be telling this and he could just easily crash out. As Andy Murray, very similar, has a self-destruct button for himself. Like, he knows exactly what to do, and his biggest rival is himself, as on top of having Djokovic or anything else. But that was just my brief point I wanted to say. Any views on your end, Vic, for the upcoming men's?
We did a post on the postgame.com about Rafael Nadal's underwear ad, and we're getting a lot of clicks on it. So if he does well, I think more people will find that story where he's doing a striptease with his underwear ad. So
Nice.
it's all about sales.
That's one way to push forward this tournament.
Nadal
anyway.
was so elated that he won his first round match that it makes me worried about it. Because, man, if you're that happy that you won the first round
Exactly.
match, you know you're struggling.
Another one. Well, Rafael Nadal is always an interesting player to watch throughout. And do you ever anyone notice? Is it just me? Have you seen how much bigger his left arm is than his right? Maybe that's in the campaign. It's like it's not even like kind of close. It's humongous. His left arm compared to his right. But that's just my observations from that. Looking forward to the tournament as a whole. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comment section below. Do you think that Serena Williams will go on and win this Grand Slam? And where will this put her in history? Do you think this argument about Serena facing a man is ridiculous as I do? Or do you think it's something that you would like to endorse and maybe potentially talk about? As always, subscribe to TYTSports. Check out thepostgame.com and also check out the postgame on YouTube, YouTube/thepostgame. And as always, come back to TYT Sports.